Welcome to Changemakers on Air. I'm Heidi Malden of Freshworks. We are here with a very esteemed guest. I'm super excited. Our guest today is Colin McCarthy. He is no stranger to IT innovation and transformation. His current role as the Global Vice President for multinational marketing agency Essence has stemmed from an inspirational journey. An incredible IT leader, Colin McCarthy has had an interesting career path. He's moved from being a one-man IT support to spearheading the IT and Google Apps Suite for Essence. He has played a vital role in multiple migrations to the cloud for companies acquired by Essence. In this episode of Changemakers, Colin McCarthy gives us a little insight into his global career trajectory and shares his views on being at the forefront of IT transformation. So, hey, Colin, wow. From one-man IT support to VP of Global IT at Essence, tell us a little bit about this incredible journey.
Yeah, it's great to be here today. I thought I'd be outside rather than downstairs in my dirty, untidy New Jersey basement. It's quite a nice 55-degree day here, which is like 12 degrees centigrade. So try to get some fresh air when I can. Yeah, it has been an incredible journey of expansion and development, and I feel very, very lucky. I think the only quiet week I've had in the last 11 years was back in October of 2010. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and I had literally done everything that needed to be done. And I sat there and I thought, this is quite a cushy job. I'm going to enjoy this. And then the company just started to expand. They grew to North America. And I've been very thankful to have had some very good line managers along the way. I've always reported into the finance director or the CFO. And as the company has grown, I've been able to develop as well, and then bring on a team of great IT professionals to support us in our growth.
Wow. Well, talking about growth, I mean, your work has taken you from London to New York, two of my favorite cities, by the way. So do you see a difference in place, people, and culture? And what was the most challenging aspect of this move?
So yeah, people often talk about, the cultural differences, and people always ask me, well, what do you miss about about England? And even though I do like my family, about the only thing I miss is the food. I do like Marks and Spencer sandwiches and some other things. But no, cultural wise, I'd spend a lot of time working in North America from 97 to 2003, I worked in a summer camp. So I was very used to the culture and the people here and traveling around. Initially, when I moved to the US, business-wise, I did find it very different the way that companies operated here. In the UK, it might have just been the resellers that I had a partnership with, but they were very, very quick and very responsive. Here, dealing with a new set of resellers and vendors, I found things a lot slower and a lot more corporate, a lot more middlemen. And I remember one meeting I went to, asking about a vendor's product. There was like me and 13 people. And I was like, well, this is a bit ridiculous. We don't need 13 people from this vendor when I'm just, making inquiry about, do they have a product that I can use? I thought,
Right.
the US seemed to be, at the time, was very corporate, sort of middle manager heavy. And that was a big cultural change for me.
Yeah, well, welcome to America. So, well, we're constantly speaking of innovation and transformations in the IT world. What are three things you've learned about IT innovation or transformation?
So I thought about talking about technology, but the three things that I have learned is accept change, be open to change, and nothing's forever and it will change. So IT moves very, very quickly. Certainly with companies growing, changing, pitching, pivoting, changing direction, either getting bought or sold or merging with other companies. I've learned that the biggest thing is to be very accepting of change, not being rigid, being very open, and obviously we were probably very early to cloud adoption. Essence was on G Suite before I joined. They're on Google Apps for Business, now Google Workspace. So this sort of change that everybody else has been going through and talking about, their cloud transformation or migration was never new to us. We were always in cloud-based applications, even though racking servers and installing applications is fun. I knew it wasn't scalable, and I didn't want to do it forever. So we were always happy to adopt a new platform or a new technology, as long as it was a software as a service solution, and I didn't have to install and patch something. So that's what I had learned about change, or my view of it.
Well, I guess that's saying, the only thing constant is that things will change.
Yes.
So continues today. Well, talking about today, we live in an age of social media. What role do you believe social media plays in the professional life of an IT leader, and what are the best ways to exploit it?
Yeah, so I think, nobody needs to see me do a TikTok. I'm never going to be able to learn one of those dances. And Facebook is used less and less by a lot of people. I only use it for keeping in touch with family. And my views on Twitter. Twitter is great if you want to complain about a company or reach their customer service department. For IT professionals and developing ones, I think that LinkedIn is a great platform, and obviously we're on here now. I have actually used it when I've been looking for staff and recruiting staff. We've advertised for positions. People have applied. Often on their resume, they'll include their LinkedIn address, and I'll look at their profile. And if they don't include it, I'll search for it and I'll find it. And I find it very useful to look at the content that they're watching on LinkedIn, that they're liking, that they're commenting on, any articles that they've written. I think there needs to be a lot more engagement. On that sort of platform, the business platforms. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of other communities around. There's some specialist Reddit communities for technology, and there's a lot of growing Slack communities that people can get involved in. I think that as a social media platform for aspiring IT people is worth their time investing, or their local IT community groups as well. That sort of can be in person, sort of social media that they can talk to peers and colleagues.
So in your opinion, when trying to identify, is it important for an IT leader to be on social media? It sounds like on the business platforms, definitely, but the social ones like the Twitters and the Instagrams, maybe not so much.
No, that's my personal view. I think there are certain platforms that are very good for sharing comments, your opinions, asking questions, seeing trends, following some of the growing companies or the emerging companies in the IT space, certainly to do with SaaS and SaaS ops, which I'm very interested in. Freshworks is a company that I follow. Follow a lot of the other SaaS companies on LinkedIn and other platforms. I don't see them posting on Facebook or TikTok, or maybe there is an opportunity for some of these companies to target people on those platforms. But for IT professionals, there is a place for them to be on the appropriate sort of business focused social media platforms.
Great. Perfect. So you've been leading IT teams across the globe. How do you motivate your teams in stressful situations, especially like, for example, in this pandemic, where people were not able to really interact? How do you keep your teams motivated when they're so disparate and in stressful times?
So we were very lucky in our transition from being in person to being remote. We had a very, very strong team spirit. I'm very lucky that a lot of my IT managers had started as IT support engineers. So as my career has progressed, so has theirs. And we were we were always a very jovial group of people. So we transitioned to the remote work very well. I think also personally, I'm a very calm person. When things go wrong, I tend not to panic, or if somebody makes a mistake, I'm not looking to, portion blame to somebody, or, it's just a learning experience, and we'll, obviously talk about any mistakes or problems that happened afterwards. But at the time, we work through things in a very logical, methodical way, and get to a resolution. And I think the other thing is to keeping them informed. I've obviously very sensibly, I work on the privilege of least privilege when you're accessing a service, but I'll tell you about that service, and I'll provide as much information as I can about the operation of the business, the operation of our IT function. I don't like keeping secrets, and are quite open. Obviously, there are some confidential pieces of information that don't get shared, but anything that I can share, I share with the team. And I think they had a sense of belonging and ownership, regardless of their level in our team, or their tenure in the team.
So true. When people feel like they're actually contributing to the core business of the company, it definitely motivates them when they can align with that.
Yeah, and a lot of times I found with our team, I would go to them and say, this is the problem. How would you like to solve it?
Oh, that's great.
Certainly, if they're the ones that are, dealing with the first line support issues, it's more important that they have ownership on the solution and finding the solution, rather than me at the higher level or my IT managers saying, this is what we should do, and them fitting into it. I would, often ask them how they think something should be tackled.
Oh, that's great. Perfect. So, you've been a technology leader for several years now. And when do you feel a sense of accomplishment? Is it that day in October when you're like, oh, I finally finished everything? How do you define success?
I find success. I just had thinking about this for a minute. Yeah, success is, I get a lot of satisfaction and a feeling of success when the team has done something well together, or an individual has identified a problem, found a solution for the problem, pitched the solution to myself and other members of the senior IT team, and then executed that solution, or suggested an improvement in how we do things. So I get a lot of satisfaction from the success of the team. There's the saying that you're only as strong as the weakest member of your team, and it might sound a bit like a Hallmark card, or one of those inspirational posters that will have an eagle flying over a lake that's pinned up in an old corporate boardroom. But I think it's very true. You're only as strong as together as a team. So I get more satisfaction about their achievements. And seeing their growth, and certainly their excitement and inspiration when they're given something new to tackle, and they have ownership of something.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As a leader myself, I find personal happiness when I see my team is actually happy doing what they're passionate about, and when they're happy doing their passionate work, then usually they excel as well. So that always brings me a lot of happiness.
Yeah, and I think it really does help the business, because it's helped us certainly with retention. Mm-hmm. A very small IT team with a lot of us has been around for a long time. I had a lot of staff. Our team grew dramatically. We almost doubled in size in 2018, when we took on a large portion of staff members from our parent company. So our team had to grow, and a lot of those people who joined in 2018 are still here, and thankfully, and very, very vital to our operation. So yeah, I think that developing your team members and giving them that sense of responsibility really does help.
Fantastic. Well, moving away from the highs of your job, what is the toughest decision you've had to make as an IT leader?
So yeah, the very sadly last year in the downturn in the economy at the height of COVID in May of 2020, I did have the unfortunate position of having to let a couple of the team members go.
Oh,
One of them was a contractor who we didn't renew their contract. Another one was a full time. That was the hardest decision.
right,
It wasn't technology. It wasn't a purchasing decision. It was a human decision.
right.
And so much of IT is a human aspect to it. It's not just all ones and zeros.
Yeah, that is always, I think, any leader's hardest decision is when you have to make cutbacks, not because of performance, and your gut is just telling you that I don't want to say it's not the right thing to do, because obviously it's the right thing to do for the business in tough times, but from a personal human perspective, it's just gut wrenching.
Yes, yeah, and it was a corporate decision.
Right.
It was actions that had to be taken, and thankfully, we did stay in touch with those two people. Did talk to them a few times as they were looking for other positions, and they found something, and
Great.
they've gone on to do great things. But yeah, that was the toughest thing that I've had to deal with.
Okay, so we've heard your highs, we've heard your lows. Now, possibly you might be able to throw in something maybe even a little humorous. So, if you were not in IT, what would you be doing?
I would be outside doing something. I'd be a park ranger or a river guide. As I said, I spent about 6 years working for a summer camp. I used to go on a lot of canoeing trips and a lot of camping. I love doing that. My wife's uncle is a farmer and a farm owner in Illinois. And I often joke with the team when things get stressful, I'll often say, right, that's it. I'm off. I'm off to run the family farm. I'm not dealing with all of this anymore. But yeah, I would happily be living in a log cabin somewhere.
Well, you might actually see me outdoors when that day comes, because I'm one of those same people. Over the summer, I have 2 teenage daughters. Over the summer, we spent a month in Lake Tahoe, and I had them
Nice.
every day doing something outdoors. My 13-year-old wasn't as excited as I was about being outdoors, but definitely our paths or our trail paths might cross one day.
Right. Yes.
I too like to be outdoors.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and the one thing I've loved about remote work and is the ability to have virtual backgrounds when you're on video calls. Obviously, this is a real background at the moment, but my team are very used to me being creative with my backgrounds and rotating them around of different outdoor places that I've been, and I'm sure everybody else uses that opportunity as well.
I have seen some funny ones. One of my colleagues, I think, is in the Star Wars airplane. He's one of the fighter jets.
Yeah. One of my guys likes to sit in that as well during meetings. It fits in perfectly.
Okay. Well, moving on. So, what I am really interested in this question. I'm hoping that your answer is just hilarious. But what are 1 or 2 things about technology that everyone else loves, but you secretly think is a bit overrated?
Yes, and I think people that are watching that know me will probably be able to guess this answer. I do think that Macs are grossly overrated. They certainly now. I can understand why when people were on Windows XP or Windows 7 and the Windows was less stable. People would pick a Mac because of its, I guess, more stable OS at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But now with Windows 10 and 11 being incredibly stable, a lot quicker to boot up, and frankly a lot easier and better for the majority of businesses to be using. I do think that Macs are overrated. I'm not a fan of Apple. I don't like the closed system that they have, the closed ecosystem. Once you get in there and you start buying your stuff, you can't take it out. But although somebody might prove me wrong, and I'm sure somebody in the comments is saying, "Oh, you can run this script to export this," but my experience of trying to get data out of iPhoto, for example, my wife had an iMac and was no longer going to use it, and then trying to get her pictures out of iPhoto was an incredibly complicated process. And I just don't like that sort of lock in. I like the ability to leave a product, and I do think they are overrated.
Got it. Well, I could see as the vendor, they like to lock you in, so I get their point of view too.
Yeah.
Well, last question, Colin. What would be your pro tip for aspiring IT leaders?
My tip for aspiring IT leaders, I think it would be to engage people on LinkedIn. Join, a subreddit in a tech product that you're interested in. Listen to other people. Join webinars. View different products. Find a Slack channel that you can join, whether it's Mac admins, which is very popular, or the Better Clouds, Better IT Slack channel, and start engaging with people there. Learn different aspects of technology, and different aspects of industry as well. I've attended a lot of events and spoken to a lot of people in different industries, and I find that talking to somebody who's in finance or healthcare or manufacturing or education, they could be large or small, and completely different from the advertising IT department that I'm in, but their sort of needs and technological requirements, limitations is can be just the same as you, just slightly different. And there's a lot of knowledge sharing and idea sharing that you can have between the two, and I find that very, very valuable. And I would also, certainly for aspiring IT leaders, to be very aware of the human aspect of IT. As I said before, it's not just all ones and zeros and being able to configure stuff. There's a lot to learn and understand about communication. as he pauses, being able to write clear communication and sensible emails to people. That's what I would get people to focus on.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I'm sure the aspiring IT leaders out there will probably take and heed your advice. So that's great. Perfect. So, Colin, I just want to thank you for this truly inspirational conversation. We think you've set the benchmark for aspiring IT leaders. So thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next Thursday, everyone on the call, for a brand new episode of Changemakers on Air, where we will interview individuals who have made a mark in the industry by using technology to transform the way people work. Thank you, Colin.
Thanks, Heidi. It'd be great to talk to you.
Great.